Right, people, today we are getting our bloods done to mark the 8-week mark of our enhanced journey. We're getting this to check through all of our health markers, make sure everything's in a good spot. The reason we're doing it at the 8-week mark is because it's given my body time for the testosterone levels to kind of reach their peak, things to settle in, and for things to kind of get to work, so to speak. So we can kind of see at this point now whether it's having any sort of negative effect on my health markers, on my lipids, so on and so forth. And it'll also be interesting to see where my testosterone levels are at on this amount of exogenous testosterone, which is 200 milligrams per week. And then if all is good with my health markers, that will warrant the first escalation, the first titration up in anabolics. So we'll probably be going up to 250 or 300 milligrams per week, depending on the results. So it is 10:15. The test is at 10:45, so I'm going to leave literally now. I don't know whether I'll be able to record in there. Last time I had a blood test, I tried to record and I wasn't really allowed to, so we might not be able to get any clips. I will try, if I can, to get some clips, but we'll see. So we're going to head off to the blood test and hopefully see you there. If not, we'll be back with the results when they come through. Alright guys, we're just getting the tourniquet on.
Just so you can close your hand a few times for
Yeah.
me. I'm just going to have a feel first.
We're just checking to see if there's
Just
an
keep a fist there for me.
easy vein to access. All good, you reckon?
We'll give it a go.
We'll give it a go. Right, this is where I don't look.
Scratch come in. You can just relax your hand a little bit if you want to. And just keep that arm nice and still for me. It's a good vein.
Thank you.
Compliment you didn't think you'd be getting today. Next, we take this off, and then just need you to push on there nice and firmly for me.
Cool. Right guys, so that's all done. That was super easy, pretty painless. That's probably the most painless blood kind of drawing I've ever had, so props to the nurse. Shout out to Ultrasound Cambridge, by the way. So I've got just a little wee plaster on the arm. Yeah, we've just got this to post. We're going to do that and then we'll be back when the results come. You look ugly. I don't. Comment down below. Right peeps, we are back and we are going to look through the results. This is a little bit in the future because the YouTube videos may or may not have got a little bit delayed, but we are here and we're going to cover the results now. Here we go. Okay, so red blood cells to start off with. As you can see, we have one marker that is slightly elevated, and this is somewhat expected in the sense of testosterone does increase hematocrit, but it's literally 0.1 above the reference range, so it's not any need for concern at all at the moment. However, it's something that will be monitored. Yeah, everything else is in the green, so hemoglobin, red cell count, MCV, MCH, MCHC, and RDW. Don't even know what these bottom four are, but they're in the green, so we're not going to worry about it. Moving on, white blood cells, red again. Obviously, yeah, white blood cells part of the immune defense of your body. I think it was not long before I had kind of been a little bit ill. Whether that has anything to do with having high neutrophils for the blood test, I honestly have no idea, but it's not a massive need for concern. It's slightly elevated above the reference range. All the other white blood cell markers are in a fine spot, so we're not worrying about it. Moving on to clotting status, all green. So platelet count, MPV, to do with kind of blood clotting, your body's ability to clot the blood and control bleeding, so on and so forth. So all good. On to kidney health. So once again in the green, so creatinine and EGFR, both absolutely fine. There's no real reason for kidneys to be impacted negatively, so this is probably expected to be in the green. And liver health. This is actually quite annoying because there was a sample error here, but I believe each time my ALT has been within range, so we're not going to worry about it. We wouldn't expect liver health to, once again, be affected particularly in this instance. Obviously, we've taken injectable anabolics. It is not processed by the liver, whereas if you start taking orals, that will get processed by the liver. Then you can start to see some potential problems coming up in that area. But for now, yeah, all in the green and all fine. On to proteins. Total protein, albumin and SHBG are all in the red. But as it does say here, what might a high result mean? So elevated levels of protein are usually mild and transient and may indicate infection. So this could be obviously tying in with the higher neutrophil count with regards to just my body fighting off something while I was taking the blood test. I don't know whether the doctor actually mentioned anything about this. Okay, total protein is a little raised with a high level of albumin. The most common cause for this is dehydration at the time of the test. So I was fasted. I had actually had a decent amount of water. However, I don't think I'd had electrolytes with that water. So it's very possible that I could have been quite dehydrated. Once again, these things as well, at the top, like literally the top of the reference range is 80, I'm 81. Top of the reference range here, 50, I'm 51. It's 1 point out of range. It's really generally not the end of the world, depending what that blood marker is. Okay, but that's why we're looking at these. Although they are, yes, technically red, we're not like worrying about them. And SHBG, obviously sex hormone binding globulin, totally expected to be lower because as it says here, transports the sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and DHT. So obviously with having high levels of testosterone and inevitably the estrogen and DHT due to taking the anabolics, SHBG is going to be taken up a lot more. So therefore it's going to be lower in the blood. Okay, so this is totally expected and absolutely fine. So on to diabetes. So we've got HbA1c, which is in the green, perfectly fine. Essentially, this is a good signal that my body is processing the glucose, well in my blood, insulin, the pancreas, all of that related stuff will generally, yeah, it's a good sign that all of that's working fine, which is good. So on to cholesterol. This is probably one of the more interesting blood markers that we've seen. So as you can see, much more elevated compared to the other markers that we've seen in the red. Okay, so total cholesterol, LDL, and non-HDL. This is an area that we have looked into a little bit further, but it's also not something we are particularly worried about. Cholesterol and estrogen can have impacts on each other. So higher estrogen can cause higher cholesterol can cause higher estrogen. These things can kind of bounce off each other to an extent, okay? So the fact that I'm obviously on a high level of testosterone, and as you'll see in a minute, my levels of estrogen are reasonably high, that could be having an impact, and that's what my coach thinks could be the case for certain reasons. But yeah, we also know that in my diet, I'm currently having quite a reasonable amount of saturated fat from healthy sources generally. So a lot of it is coming from beef mince, really high quality beef mince, but inevitably does have saturated fat in. So we want to take that into account, and we have taken that into account and made some adjustments to nutrition to reduce the amount of saturated fat to see how it has an impact on cholesterol. I've also never really had problems with my cholesterol levels before, even when I was on anabolics previously. So as you can see here, this result is the last time I was on anabolics, and this first one is actually when I was natural. So when I was natural, my cholesterol was slightly in the red. I then went on anabolics, my cholesterol got better. A lot of that would have been because I dialed in my nutrition a little bit more, so on and so forth. But as you can see, this is the last time, and I think I was on either 200 milligrams. I was on 200 milligrams once again. So the same amount of testosterone, and my cholesterol was lower. So we know that it's not my body responding to the testosterone, and therefore that's elevating my cholesterol significantly. We know that it's just something that needs tweaking in my nutrition, or at least that's the high likelihood. Potentially, as I said, the estrogen could be having an impact as well, but generally this is like a good sign. So that's why it's important to not just get one blood test and then just kind of let that carry you for ages, is to get semi-consistent blood tests, compare the results, and learn things about your body, how your body responds to certain things, especially when we're talking about anabolics. Okay, but even when you're natural, it's of super high value. So overall cholesterol status, we are not worried. We're just making some nutritional adjustments. However, any of you out there, if you're getting your blood test and you see these results come back for yourself, and you know that your nutrition maybe is you're not getting much of your food from like high quality whole foods, this is going to be a little bit more of a concern probably in your situation, and something you want to address a bit more urgently than in my specific instance. However, having said that, we are still addressing it. It's not like we're not, but we just know it's just going to be down to adjusting some of those nutritional factors, okay? Whereas for some of you guys, it might be to do with your response to anabolics if you are taking anabolics, or it could be your response to certain foods, or maybe you need to add in some more healthy foods. So you got to figure that sort of thing out for yourself. Next, we have iron status is absolutely spot on, so no issues there. Then we have thyroid hormones, so TSH, free T3, and free thyroxine. All tongue twisters, all of these names. All good, all in the green, no issues at all. Obviously, this is all to do with your metabolism, so we are firing on all cylinders. Right, so on to hormones, the second big daddy one of the blood panel. So as you can see here, all of them are in the red, but very much expected. Obviously, with us injecting hormones, the hormone panel itself is going to have the biggest, is going to be affected the most by what we're doing. So as you can see, we've got FSH, LH, which is follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. So these are both involved in spermagenesis, fertility, so on and so forth. So when we talk about injecting exogenous testosterone, it's sending a signal to our body and our brain that we have plenty of testosterone in our body already, because we're injecting it, right? And also we're injecting above the natural amounts. So our body is like, okay, there's loads of this testosterone available, we don't need to create any more. And normally testosterone is created in your testicles. And with that process of the testosterone being created, it also has a link to kind of the FSH being created and LH and all of this stuff in kind of almost like a bit of a trifecta circuit sort of thing, where they all have an impact on each other. And if one comes out, so in this instance, the testosterone stops being produced, that then kind of almost cuts the circuits for the LH and FSH, okay? So when we're not producing testosterone naturally, LH and FSH are going to be rock bottom. So that's why males in general are not fertile when they are injecting just testosterone by itself, unless they are introducing something like HCG, which basically can help restart that process and keep you fertile whilst you are on testosterone. But I am not taking that at the moment. But yeah, that's perfectly expected for those to be rock bottom. Then we have estradiol. This is once again totally expected to be high, because as we are injecting super physiological levels of testosterone, and we have that in our body, that testosterone is going to convert via the aromatase enzyme, or aromatase enzyme, however you want to pronounce it, into estrogen. Okay, that will vary on how much it converts depending on the person, but generally if you have super physiological, I can't say it without spazzing it up. If you have supraphysiological ranges of testosterone, you're probably going to have supraphysiological ranges of estrogen in your body. Okay, so this is as expected. It's not necessarily a bad thing either, up until I start getting estrogenic side effects. So think about things like water retention, tickly nipples, which is a sign that you are starting to edge towards maybe getting gynecomastia, feeling more emotional. Those sort of things can all come on as an impact of having higher estrogen. So we want to be wary of that, but considering I'm not having any of those side effects at the moment, high estrogen is actually very good in a lot of ways. It's neuroprotective and it's vital throughout the body in so many different ways. So it's good. It's, if anything, good to be high, but not to be so high that we're having side effects. On to testosterone. So this is actually really, really interesting to see, because this, as I said, the last time I got my blood tested and where this result is, was on the same amount of testosterone that I'm taking now. But as you can see, we got quite significantly different levels of testosterone. So we got 50.6 nanomole in this test, but before we only got 41.7 nanomole, which shows to me that there was potentially a difference in dosage in what I got last time compared to what I had this time. But also there's a potential argument to be made that maybe because I am maybe being a bit more dialed in this time, although I was very dialed in last time, there's definitely elements that have been a few % better this time with regards to more like my lifestyle factors. And whether that's then meant my body has responded better to the exogenous testosterone and then led to a higher level of testosterone in my blood, it's hard to say, but it's just interesting to see. Okay, but yeah, 50.6 nanomole on 200 milligrams of testosterone enanthate per week after 8 weeks. Free testosterone, obviously super high with the higher levels of testosterone. So prolactin, we are not worried about this. There are side effects that can come with having too high prolactin. Some quite interesting side effects like milky discharge from your nipples, which is a bit gross, but I can confirm that has not been happening. But yeah, it can be affected by kind of like really high intensity exercise, so that could be the case. But it's also, I believe, yeah, last time it was significantly lower. That's interesting to see, and this is definitely something that we are gonna take note of and measure, but also not something to worry about unless I was to start getting side effects or something. But generally, yeah, fine for now. And finally, as you can see, prostate is absolutely fine, no issues there. So that is 8-week blood test. I hope you guys learned something from watching that. Did you learn something, Aaron, from listening to me chat waffle for half an hour? Did you learn something?
I heard you say prostate, that was about it.
So did you learn something?
That you had a prostate, yeah.
There you go. So even Aaron's learning something today, which is great. And stay tuned for next week's video, which is going to be a full comprehensive talk about my experience after 12 weeks on anabolics. Okay, so we're catching up a little bit as of next week. Don't forget, like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you've got any questions or you just want to chat. Subscribe as well if you want to follow the rest of the journey. And see you guys in the next video.